Let's get this show started here. How are you? All right. In this live stream, folks, we're going to be covering strategy, what strategy really is, and how to go about it. So, one of the things that I hear frequently is everyone refers to themselves as being strategic. I've done strategy work. Yet, when you sit down and think about the nuts and bolts and tools that are used, it's not quite the case. I know more than my fair share of individuals and consultants who have positioned themselves despite having the experience and their skills as as strategists and strategy folks. That kind of stuff just absolutely drives me insane. To be honest with you. So one of the things I decided to do was, you know, what are the tools that people use to develop strategy? Now it's that time of the year where everyone's talking about ocean planning, policy deployment, the strategy matrix, all these great tools, right? That exist to create strategy. But the vast majority of people aren't really doing strategy work. What they're doing is goal alignment and cascading goals and objectives that have been articulated by some organization. The real strategy work is done at a senior level and may or may not be done even within your organization. So right now, I'm talking to the consultants out there who aspirationally use the term strategist, right? We do strategy consultant. I'm talking to the individuals who have on their LinkedIn profile done strategy work when it's really goal alignment. When I'm talking about goal alignment, you're given some goals and objectives and you go out and do it. When I'm talking about strategy, what we're talking about is how we're going to compete in the marketplace in understanding what that marketplace looks like. Totally different than going out and saying, all right, here are your goals and objectives. Go make this happen, right? There's a place for that and people do it all the time and are responsible for doing it. And there's nothing wrong with it. But saying you're a strategist when you don't understand the tools that are being used or even have used those tools can be extraordinarily dangerous, very dangerous. And I've seen that happen all the time. I was working with a group of consultants one time who sold themselves as strategy consultants. And as they're doing their work, they were lean guys, mostly lean guys, and lean guys say ocean plan and it's strategy deployment. And then they said, all right, help us develop a strategy. They didn't have a formal methodology in place that they used to follow. And they didn't understand how to go about and actually develop that strategy, if you will. What are the tools and techniques that are required to develop that strategy? So I want to talk to you about that. This way, if you got yourself in a position, I did a live stream a few weeks ago about strategy, and someone reached out to me immediately. Well, Dan, it happened to me. I sold myself as the strategist and strategic thinker, and now it's time for me to deliver the goods. What do I do? So, and they were really, really in a bind, right? Can you imagine selling work? Now you need to go figure out how to do it. And it's easier to do. We're going to talk about how to do a strategic industry assessment using Chat GPT or any of the large language models, or even a knowledge base that you may have. You've heard me talk about bots and knowledge bases and stuff like that. If you're in an industry, you can cultivate all that data, all the data that's coming in, all the new data, feed it into your strategy, into your knowledge base, and use that to help you understand the strategy. So let's do this. I am going to share my screen, and here you go. You can see this little screen here. I just want to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to do in our strategy. So when we're doing a strategy, we want to understand the segmentation. Who's really interested in our products and services? We know our existing client base, but is that actually going to change? So we can go through and do a segmentation analysis and psychographics to get an understanding of who those actual people might be that are looking for our work. Now, I'm going to review some models with you, and everyone's going to say, oh, yeah, I'm a strategist. I get it. I use it all the time. There's a PESTLE analysis. This is the first tool we start out with. When we're doing formal strategic assessments for an industry, we want to do this PESTLE analysis of the industry. And the PESTLE analysis stands for what's the political, economic, societal, technology, legal, and environmental issues that are coming up. These are global in nature. They typically tend to be bigger that are going to affect your industry. So if you're doing strategy and you don't take into account the political ramifications of what's going on, the economic situation, the societal implications, right? Imagine if you're in the gas and oil business, right? Prior to the election, you might have been kind of nervous about who won the election, what's going to happen to that industry. What's the technology? What technology is affecting your industry? What's the legal environment? Are they suing the crap out of each other? And then what are the environmental considerations that need to take place? So this is one of the things that we do. So I like to ask when people talk to me and they try to say, hey, Dan, they're making conversation. I'm a strategist too. I said, oh, really? Tell me about an interesting PESTLE analysis. I'm always interested in understanding the perspective of how this industry is going to be affected. And then, of course, I get that glazed over look. They haven't done one. Once we've done that, I like to go in and make sure we do a 5 forces model, right? This 5 forces, the Porter's 5 forces analysis, right? Help me understand how easy it is for new entrants to get into the marketplace. What's the bargaining power of suppliers and buyers? What are the threat of substitute products, and what does the industry rivalry look like? So when you think about this Porter's 5 forces model, imagine you're a software company right now, right? It's really easy to use the large language models that exist today to create software applications and things like that. If you're a company that develops in custom software development, you might start thinking about, how easy is it to get into the marketplace? It's going to be fairly easy, right? The bargaining power of suppliers. Is there any suppliers in the industry that you're using? Probably not. The buyers. Do the buyers have a lot of bargaining power over price and things like that? Probably so. Are there threats of substitute products? Probably so. And what's that industry rivalry look like? So those are the things that some of the preliminary things that we're looking for when we start talking about strategy work. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do an industry assessment. If someone's on the chat, they want to drop it into the window, I'll do an actual industry assessment live for you as we go forward. And then, of course, we have this PESTLE analysis, but we can come in here. So let me open that up. We did the Porter's 5 forces. We did the PESTLE. Now I'm going to make this a little bigger here. We have this GE McKinsey matrix that is used. This is another assessment that exists. Let me make that a little bigger, right? And it's going to help us understand some things about the business. We're going to understand the business strength and the market attractiveness, and it's going to help us identify, is this a market we still want to be in? Is it a fading or dying market, or is it an evolving market, if you will? So it's looking at, you can see here, I have it listed out, market attractiveness. How attractive is this market? On the y-axis, remember that goes up and down. And across the x-axis here, the business strength or competitive position within our industry, right? So this is giving us a way to assess the market and what's going on in the market. And then, of course, we can plot ourselves against this. So this is another tool. So the strategy bot that I'm going to share with you in a second has all this built into it. That's why I have these explanations here. Of course, there's a simple SWOT analysis. What are the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats? Most people don't realize, but a SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses are internal to the organization. Opportunities and threats are external to an organization. That's why we have it set up as a matrix. And there's tools that we can use that once we understand our strengths and weaknesses, the opportunities and threats in the marketplace, of how we might leverage those or mitigate our weaknesses, if you will. So this is another tool that's going to be done. Now, again, I'm going to share with you my strategy GPT that I used to create this document, and it's going to create basically a 25-page report for you. And then, of course, this was a buzzword a couple of years ago, right? Or it still might be, we're going to do a blue ocean strategy analysis for you, right? And what it's trying to do is look for an uncontested market space. Where can we be competing for our industry products and services that there's no one else in there? And I have that actually built into our model. So again, We're assessing the marketplace, what's taking place. We've done a PESTLE analysis. We've done the Porter's 5 forces model, right? Has something changed in the industry that made it really easy to get into, or has something changed recently which made it hard to get into? So that's going to give us some leverage. And then we're going to, of course, look for this uncontested market space. And then we're going to have scenario planning. Now, scenario planning was developed by Shell years ago, and the military actually uses it. This scenario planning is typically a 20-year look ahead. What does the future hold for us looking 20 years out? Now, most organizations will never last that long, and they'll evolve and shift. But that's what a scenario planning does. In my model, I only have it do a 10-year look ahead. And here's why. Of all this, I've been involved in hundreds of strategy assessments and developing formal strategies for companies and organizations. The vast majority of the work that we do in that strategy work never gets implemented. I've done this in the government work. In government, you really don't have, government type work, you really don't have strategy. It's hard to say that you're out there trying to figure out how to compete in this industry. For the most part, you're just doing what's told of you, regardless of your rank. But in this scenario planning, we're looking ahead, a 10-year look ahead, and we're trying to understand what are the things that can affect our business. Of course, this was another one that was really popular years ago, and I heard every consultant using it, a VUCA analysis. And I would say, oh, great, tell me what VUCA means. and they struggle to tell me what VUCA means. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity in the marketplace, right? And what we're doing is we're looking for conditions and supply chain issues and ambiguous market signals. What are the things out there that can drive a change in the market that we may not know about? So that's a VUCA. And again, it's built into my model here. Ignore this one. This one here is the VERA analysis, and it stands for value, rarity, imitatability, and organization. This is actually done after we do our assessment. What we can do in many, when we're actually developing the strategy, we'll take the organization's existing strategy and do this kind of assessment to see where the gaps are. What have we been doing and what could go wrong there? And then here we have the Delta model analysis. The Delta model analysis popular about 25 years ago. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what's the best way to compete. Are we going to customer bonding, right? Are we going to compete on, basically driving customer satisfaction? Are we going to have system lock-in where people can't leave once they purchase our product? They're stuck in that ecosphere. Or are we going to have the best product out there and we're going to compete on that margin? And then most people don't have their own internal strategic planning framework, if you will, right? And that becomes a problem, right? If you're doing all this work, right? At the end of the day, what does it get you? So like I've developed this formal strategy process. I call it ESOP, right? Assess the current market and assess our organization strategy, right? So that's what that stands for. And then I have established our goals, objective measures, and targets and budget for the coming year. Most strategies fail because it's never been budgeted for, right? And then synchronize our organization, right? Let's synchronize our organization around these objectives, goals, strategies, and measures. And that might mean getting rid of some existing measures that we have in place. And then we want to operationalize this plan. We want to roll it out and make sure everybody is engaged in it. And then again, at the end here, we're going to persist, prioritize as necessary. We're going to do more weekly check-ins, and we're going to drive the strategy. And again, as I said, for most organizations, even the ones that have paid consultants to do this, this is a formality. It ends up on a book. No one ever does anything with it again. And then again, many people, consultants in particular, and especially the lean consultants love to talk about Hoshin Connery planning or strategy deployment, and you ask them, okay, what kind of market assessments have you done? And they really haven't done any actual market assessment. What they're doing is they're helping the teams come together and just develop a strategy, if you will, and goals to go after, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not strategic planning where we're actually looking to understand how we're going to compete in that marketplace, right? That's what this is all about, is how do we compete in the market? So again, strategy is not about getting some goals and objectives and just rolling them out through the organization. That's what happens in most organizations. Strategy is about understanding how and where we're going to compete. And in order to do so, we have to assess the market. And there's some fantastic tools that I just showed you: the PESTLE analysis, the Porter's 5 forces model, of course, the Porter's strategies, low-cost strategy. Porter's has a low-cost strategy thing, and you can see what those results look like here in a second. So for you who have this aspirational goal, or maybe you made the mistake, maybe you misunderstood what strategy is, and you have it on your LinkedIn profile and you have it as a product and service that you're actually selling, you're going to want to follow along and see how we actually go about doing this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share another screen with you, and we're going to take a walk through using my strategy prompt. It's a huge prompt that I created, and I've tested, right? I've gone out and tested these results. People say, you can't trust ChatGPT. Oh, can you trust, given all the crap that's happening at Harvard with all the lying and cheating, Gina, whatever her name is, had done on all her academic research, who do we trust anymore? So let me do this here. I'm going to share another screen with you here. I'm going to share my strategy GPT here. Bam. So right now, you should see my little strategy GPT. Right, this is it's an app that I wrote to help me do strategic industry assessments, and it's a very simple app. What you need to do is put in your product, your industry or product or service, and your geographic location, and the bot is going to go out there and do all the research for you and return some phenomenal results. I have a handful of bots, and I have a knowledge base that it does. So it knows how to do a PESTLE analysis. What are the steps to do a PESTLE analysis? What are the steps to do a 5 forces model analysis? What are the steps to do a blue ocean strategy, right? I just didn't type this in. I had to create training documents that tells it how to go about doing this. So let's do this. I am going to say, let's do this. We're going to go through and do an analysis of the outsourced healthcare claims processing business, right? That was one of the businesses that, many people were going to start years ago. I'm going to do claim processing for healthcare companies. So let's do this. I am going to come into this bot here. I'm already signed in. This is my bot. Let me come in here. I'm gonna log into my bot. And you can see here, it says, enter this as your prompt. Analyze your business or industry and geographic location. And then you want to run this prompt until, if you haven't used AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Llama, I have like over a dozen of these bots, of these large language models. You need to learn how to do so. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say, okay, analyze the outsourced healthcare claims processing industry in the United States, right? If you have something you want me to analyze, go ahead and drop it in that chat window, and I'll gladly take a look at it. So what we're going to do in my bot, I'm just going to, and I encourage you to go out there and train your bots and figure out what's going to do. Now, here you see it's going out and doing this analysis for us. Now, the analysis is so large. Remember, I told you it's going to be about 25 pages. I'm going to zoom in here in a second for you. It's going to be 25 pages long. When it stalls, right, or stops because it has run out of what we call tokens, we're going to hit enter continue, and the model is going to keep running for us. Okay, so that's what's going to happen there. We're going to let this keep running out for us. All right, you see it's still going, right? It's at the GE McKinsey Blue Ocean Strategy. The model, it's going to stall out here in a second. You can see, remember in that prompt it says wait until you see the analysis has completed. I'm going to hit continue. And we're going to let it go. It's going through. See, it's going to pick up. It's still thinking. It knows where it has left off. In the past, many of the large language models that was called was called hallucinating, which means that if it had too much information, it couldn't store it in memory, it would lose it. But with the larger large language models, we're not having that problem anymore. So you can see it's still doing the analysis here. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in over here. I can't see the questions in YouTube. If you're in YouTube, unfortunately, on my system, I don't have anyone helping me right here. I can't see your questions. So if you drop the question into YouTube, let me see. I'm gonna on my system, I don't have anyone helping me right there. I don't see any questions on any of those YouTube channels or Facebook if you have them in Facebook. So let's continue to see what's going on. You can see that it's still running. You see right here, it says the report is completed, right? So this is great news. Our report ran out and now it's completed. So let's take a step back. Remember I said one of the things we like to, let's go to the very top of this chat GPT here. I said, analyze your business or industry in this geographic location. And remember, many of you have sold yourselves as having this expertise, right? So here it's doing a segmentation analysis, right? Who are the buyers in this industry and what do we need to know, right? So the benefits are cost reduction, improved efficiency, right? So here you can see it's delegating. It talks about delegating these processes, the benefits of delegating these processes. And then it says product type, right? So you might have a software solution that's doing this, or you might have some sort of service center that's doing this. Who are the end users, right? Hospitals, medical practices, insurance companies. Geographic areas, where is this more likely to occur? In the Northeast, the Midwest, and in the West Coast. These are like the hot spots for this type of industry, if you will. And then psychographics with examples, what are the organizations? Now, we could have done this for a specific product. If you were selling earbuds, right? You could have put earbud industry in the US, yada, yada. And it's going to give you like it's going to give you a detailed psychographics. I actually have a prompt that is very detailed that I sell to marketers that goes into great detail on how to on a more detailed segmentation analysis. So here are the people, here are the type of organizations that's interested, and so on. Now, mind you, it ran this prompt. If I were to copy and paste this and put it into a Google Doc, it's going to be about 20 pages long, 25 pages long. But now that we have it in here and saved, we can ask it more questions. We might ask it to expand the psychographics, give me more detail, expand on this PESTLE analysis. All right, so here's the PESTLE analysis that it's done. And here you can see it's brief. It says, what are the political factors, government regulations in healthcare, economic factors, healthcare costs and budgets and operations are driving this, right? Social, changing demographics and longer life expectancies are affecting this industry, right? Technology, innovations, and especially around automation and AI. Remember, anything that is rules-based, right? A lot of healthcare claim processing is rules-based, can easily be automated and use AI. Any business or skill or service, for instance, the project management industry, that's going to get wiped out by AI and automation because it's a rules-based thing. Is it on track? No, it's not on track. Boom, send out reports, right? Legal environment, right? There's compliance requirements and data protections becoming a thing. So here it goes into more detail. Now I had take out a lot of detail because it was just so overwhelming. But again, I could come in here and I can ask the chat GPT if I was interested in the political climate, say, hey, what are the political things that can be further driving this, right? And I'm sure they'll come up with single payer, universal health care, all these crazy ideas, right? That's happening politically. Economic downturn could limit payouts, right? Economic downturn could limit the industry and what we're doing there, inflation and service pricing. These are all the things that are affecting this industry. The sociological things, aging populations are putting increase in healthcare demands, more services, more claims, right? That kind of stuff. And you can see it just goes on and on and on. And then here it's given a little mini assessment based on what we just saw. So each one of these I've programmed to give us some sort of little assessment, if you will. So again, if you're selling strategy services and you can't do something like this, and again, there's a lot behind the scenes to make this even better, where it goes, how it gets the data. We can control all that with our AI. And then here it does our Porter's 5 forces analysis. Is this a good business or industry? What is changing in it, right? If we were in a business and it was really hard and it was regulated and we had to pay off all the politicians to get into it and it costs a lot of money, and then all of a sudden now it's easy to get into, that really changes the game, if you will, right? It can change the competitive landscape. We have more entries and we have more competitors who might be competing on price, lowering those prices. So here, it's identifying some strategic positions that we can consider, right? So here it says the threat of new entrants. You can see here this little formatting stuff. I can make this wider and copy and paste. It says high capital expenditure on software solutions restricts new entrants. All right, so right now it's saying that the software is expensive. We know that it's easy now to generate software to do this. The coding has changed significantly. Established relationships with healthcare entities serve as a barrier. Compliance necessities might be an issue. It says bargaining power of buyers, right? Large healthcare firms that can demand higher service and quality. The switching costs between vendors might be too expensive. And that's a thing to consider, is how hard or easy is it to switch in and out of our product, off our product. And then threat of substitute products, right? It says in-house claims processing utilizes advanced software potential. Automation with RPA tools. If you're not familiar with automation and RPA tools, in the Six Sigma world, this is a big thing right now, especially in the service industries. We can do so much with automation and AI. It's absolutely amazing. And I can even record people's screens, and I have a bot that watches it, and it will program that bot to take care of all those actions going forward. So just think about all the resources that we have manually keying in things. Once the bot learns how to do it, it gets a transaction to automatically do it. The bargaining power of suppliers, right? Sometimes suppliers might have a stranglehold on you, right? And that industry. So when we start looking at this, is it a good industry to get into? Or will I be at the mercy of a handful of suppliers which can destroy my business, right? You can think about suppliers as governments too, right? If you're in a state and the state all of a sudden is jamming regulations down your throat and new taxes and stuff like that, there's nothing you can do about it. It's like having a single source supplier, if you will. And then competition, right? And then here you can see it does another little mini assessment of it based on here. So again, what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is many of you have sold this aspirational background that you're a strategist or your company, the strategy work, or you're strategic thinkers. Yet, if you were asked a handful of tools, if we were sitting at the table and I said, all right, tell me about that PESTLE analysis you've done. And you can't describe to me what you've done because I know what questions to ask next to catch people that are scammers, right? If I ask you, all right, A Porter's five forces model. Tell me what you're initially thinking about the industry. If you can't answer that question, you're in big trouble. A SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis can be done here or not here. I actually prefer, we'll do a mini SWOT here, but after we get our existing organization's strategy and how we've been promoting our products and services, I use that to compare it to this analysis that's done here. So remember, strengths and weaknesses are internal to the organization. That's another trick question, right? I'll ask people, well, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. How would you segment those? What do you do with it, right? And the answer we're looking for: strengths and weaknesses are internal, opportunities or threats are external to the organization. And then just to see if people really know, right? People understand the tool. So here you can see the opportunities, the threats, and again, man, we're going to have to redo it. I just kicked myself out. So let's do this. I'm gonna have to go back in here, folks. I actually think I saved it right here. I can click on this. Yep, I have it actually saved in my profile. So that's the PESTLE analysis. Let me get rid of this over here. Weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Now we have a scenario planning, that 10-year look ahead, right? What does the future hold for us? Remember, because we're not developing a strategy for next year. We're looking for 10 years out. Now, I can see already I have several questions in here, how accurate is this? Well, I've tested this and I've used it. I've worked with other consulting firms that I know that do have a different technique of doing market assessments, and we're in good alignment in there. And actually, mine can even be directed to newer resources, right? We can bring that in because this is all built on a chatbot, if you will, that learns and updates its information in more real time than the large language models. Scenario planning is a 10-year look ahead. What does this industry look like? Remember, we're talking about the claims, the healthcare claims processing, outsourcing that. What technology changes can we look at? Blockchain, right? Blockchain is going to be huge. We have all those journal entries in there, and they're going to be secure, more secure. RPA, right? Using robotic process automation or AI or automation as a whole. That's going to, just like bookkeeping, just like any other rules-based industry, it's going to have an effect on it. The economic conditions, what's going to happen in the market. So it's looking 10 years out and thinking, remember, the further out we go, the less reliable it's going to be. But you can see these are the things that it's actually looking at. So you can see just by running a bot like this can really be beneficial. Even if you don't believe, and there's going to be some naysayers out there, better, of course, your gut is better. At least this is giving you a starting point, if you will, to consider and then expand from. I could have made this prompt, there's tricks to the prompt where I could have made it go basically, be super creative, think about a dystopian future. What does it look like? And it would take all that into consideration. Regulatory shifts in the industry. And I think if you can see, this is pretty cool stuff, right? And then the industry assessment. So here again, it's doing an industry assessment of that model. And here it does the McKinsey, the GE McKinsey matrix analysis, right? It's looking for different, in this matrix, it's going to look at different parts of how we can compete in a marketplace, right? So it says high-tech R&D investments, market distribution, talks about the market distribution, how we can look at that. Digitization, what is digitization going to bring into the market, right? I mean, the advances with AI and its capabilities are just mind-blowing. And again, a little mini assessment of how we're actually going to compete. Let me see what other questions I have. Do I provide training on this? Well, on the tools, the tools, it takes some experience. You can start using the tools, going out there and doing these assessments. A lot of us are using AI to help us. We know where to go and get that, where to get that data. right? Understanding the tool and then understanding how to rank and prioritize all that, the divergent and convergent nature of strategic thinking and planning is all important, right? But I could help. I help organizations all the time, especially ones that have sold this service and don't have the capabilities of delivering it. Blue ocean strategy, that was big. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry had on blue ocean strategy. We're going to look for this uncontested market space, right? So what this does here, it's looking at uncontested market spaces within our industry that we might consider and want to compete in, right? So this is going to help us get out of this nasty bidding war that might be a race to the bottom to finding something, some greener pastures that we might be able to own, right? So in this framework here, and again, I taught it how to go out, what these definitions are, how to do the assessment, and how to bring back the results. There's this 4 actions framework, right? Raise, eliminate, reduce, and create. That is part of that blue ocean strategy framework. I'm not here to teach you the book Blue Ocean Strategy, right? You can read the book and try to interpret yourself, right? That's the easy part. Getting the data is the hard part. So eliminate inessential manual claims verifications or aggressing swift, that affect swiftness. Extend the functional hours of eliminating disco dance. Discordance, right? And then create a customer-centric procedures. And then you have the 3 tiers of a customer. These operational definitions are described in the book, right? You have these non-adopters slowly adopting, digitizing their intent, right? So just think about it. There might still be practices out there doing crap by paper, right? And then here we have irregular suffering, inconsistencies, skeptics, right? We might have the skeptics out there. And then the 6 paths framework. You can see this is a way that we're starting to look ahead and understand what is going out in that industry. And remember, we ran out, so we had to hit continue here. So there we are. And now here's the Porter's generic strategies model, right? Michael Porter, the guy that developed the 5 forces model, said basically there's 3 strategy positions that you can take up in an industry, right? You can be a cost leader, right? That's competing on low cost industry. You can be differentiated. You can be like a super differentiated product, or you can have focused on a very specific industry, right? So here we have examples of generic strategies for this industry. It does a VUCA analysis. We're not going to go into the VUCA analysis here for you, right? I described a little bit about what that actually was, and you can see it here. So it stands for volatility. What are the things that are volatile in the marketplace? Uncertainty. What is going to take place, especially around regulatory issues. And I remember I said in the US, right, where we have a commercial marketplace. And then complexity, how complex, what's the complexity of our industry? This industry, right? Or, if the government isn't, maybe states and local and federal governments can reduce the complexity of healthcare costs by going to a standard form or format, right? And I know the industry has been moving in that direction. That might reduce some of that complexity. Ambiguity, right? There's always ambiguity in here, especially around understanding what's going to take place in the market. And then again, it does an industry assessment. And now we have the Delta model, right? So think about this. If you're a consulting firm and you're saying we're going to do this for a client, I worked for a consulting firm. We charged 20 grand to do an assessment like this, and it would take us a long time. 20 grand, and that's with outsourced people, low-cost people, researchers doing the work for us. And we wouldn't cover all these topics, right? So we did the industry assessment, but now we have the capability to say, even think a little further along. Now that we're doing this industry assessment, consider these frameworks for us. Right, so we have system lock-in. That's like me with Apple. I have Apple everything: Apple Watch, Apple phone, MacBook, iPad, I don't have the AR things yet, but I'm locked into that. I'm locked in, right? So all my devices are synchronized, and I won't leave, right? So that's how do you get locked in? Best product. How do you get the best product? You might have the absolute single best product. You might think of it. What is it? The Aura ring, right? The ring that you can use to monitor your health, right? They have the best product out there, right? So that's the one you go to. And customer solutions, this might be where we're trying to understand the majority of the solutions that our customers are going to need. What are the adjacent or complementary services that we can provide them, right, to try to get to that system lock-in? So most industries, right, so most businesses go from best, customer solution, best product to customer solutions, maybe then to system lock-in. And then here we're doing an attractiveness of the market. I said, okay, now that we've done all these assessments, how attractive is it, right? So now it's starting to give me some information about the marketplace, opportunities in that market. Now it's going to do a little bit more market research for us. And now I have it trying to do just be a little more marketing minded. And what can we find out there in the market? What are some of the trends that we can look for? And what are some of these target markets that we want to look at? So now this is more marketing specific. Since we have all this data, right? So not only are we looking at it already strategically, we're already looking at it as marketing and sales, right? So we have it. Let's use the data to see what we can come up with, right? So it's telling us the target markets, the competitors. And then here it's a lean canvas here. This lean canvas is going to help us try to create a coherent strategy, right? Put it into a data format that we can use to develop this strategy. Now, again, we can rerun this. I have a larger bot. It's not that I don't allow people to use. That I can take an existing strategy. I can interview a business and try to get an understanding of what they're currently doing, and then I can marry it up using AI. I can synchronize these two, and it's going to tell me the gaps and opportunities, what they're doing, what we think they're doing potentially right, and we can do all sorts of assessments to help them understand what opportunities they're missing, right, or what threats they may not have considered. And then it's giving me a little summary, right, and next steps of what we can do. And then it's creating a detailed report. Now I had to shorten this up because the massiveness of this report, just absolutely massive, over 25 pages. And then here I have it, what are some open-ended questions to ask? So if I was doing this for you, right, how did the U.S. healthcare reform specifically married, how do they tie up to what you're doing? You can see here, a lot of people are on ChatGPT. There's some, actually, when I said there's hallucination problems, this is because I brought it back. I brought back a previous version, so it doesn't look very good here. I said, what are some adjacent businesses, right? So if we're doing a strategy work for the company we're looking at, what are some of the adjacent industries in there, right? Vertical as well as horizontal opportunities that we may want to consider, right? And then the report has completed. So here you can see it gave us a very detailed report. If I were to copy and paste this and put it into a document, it's going to be 25 pages. And then what I could do is I can recheck this. I can take this same output and I could use a different large language model. I forget which one I used here. I think this one, I change it up depending on what's happening in the industry. I think this one's using Chat GPT 4, not the 4.0. The 4.0 we know is better. And then I also one of my favorite GPTs that has come out recently is the one made by NVIDIA. A lot of people don't know it and use it. And then of course there's dozens of other models out there. But this is a great starting point to demonstrate how we can use AI to augment some of the work that we've actually been doing, especially if you've sold yourself as a strategy consultant, right? If you're out there saying, I'm a strategy consultant and we're doing this work, and I'm interviewing you, now that you know that I'm a strategy consultant, I would start asking some questions of you, and you're going to be stuttering and stammering, right? What are the models? How are you going to do this? How does this tie into the marketing? How are you going to roll my strategy up into the assessment and come up with alternative scenarios for us, right? All that's done in ChatGPT. What I just shared with you right now, this app right here, right? What I just shared with you right here is just the market assessment, right? So this is just doing the strategy GPT that exists just to do the assessment. I have way more behind the scenes, and that's this one right here. You can see this right here, right? Just understanding. All you have to do to use this bot is, say analyze this industry, right? Analyze this industry in a particular location, and it will go out and actually do a great job for it. And again, some of you are going to say, nope, it's not good enough. I don't believe it. Well, the reality is most people that I've come across, I would say probably 99% of them that say they're strategists and strategic planners and assessors aren't. They don't have the tools. They don't have the skills. It's an aspirational thing, and it sounds good. It's like being data driven, right? But there are tools out there to help us, right? So, and this is one of those tools, right? So as I've been, I was thinking about, someone asked me to help them do strategy. I said, how much effort and time? I know where all the resources are to do all that research. It's going to take me a long time. So I can just as easily build a bot and go out and do it, and then start adding to it. So I could take my bot right now, and maybe I want to be oil and gas specific. I can get all the new information every day, retrain it, rerun the bot, understand what's going on, get the news articles to see what's happening out there, to keep it up to date with all the new technology. And next thing you know is we're developing a great strategy bot. So that's what I wanted to talk about, right? So you can see here, I have this as a service, right? Software as a service. It's all been trained, and you can run a certain amount of models on it. But I think it's a great segue as we're moving into this new economy, especially with all the shakeup, the political shakeup that's taken place, the economy, what's going to happen with this economy, especially when you start thinking about the societal factors, in the U.S. where people, seem to be fragmented. The technology, what's the technology impact on your industry, right? I keep thinking about the bookkeeping, the accounting, the project management, all those things that are rules or data gathering stuff. All that stuff can be done easily with automation and AI. Let's develop a strategy and understand what implications we have, right? And you can see how exhaustive my strategy bot was, right? I could have asked it to go into much more detail, and I could say maybe overemphasize. Maybe we believe that the use of automation and artificial intelligence has been underplayed. We can go out there and say, all right, we're making an assumption that people have underestimated the impact of AI and automation. We want the bot to consider the significant impacts on what it does to a strategy, right? And what it does for opportunities, and it will do it for you, right? So it can quickly and easily rejigger that process. So think about it. I do Lean Six Sigma training and certification and consulting. And in the past, this isn't the case with even Lean. None of these process improvements, and we'll really see that really seem to show that are really strategic in nature. Number one, strategy is the most overused term we have, right? Data-driven strategy, that's all overused, right? But if we have a strategy and we know where to go and what we're anticipating, that can help us out significantly. So I'm Dan Feliciano. If you have any questions, drop me. I can be reached at dan@opex90.com. We do Lean Six Sigma training and certification. We actually have some classes coming up here in the future. At the end of the month, we have some classes to be in huge demand, and those happen to be the skills that most people have exaggerated on, if you will. So have a great day. I'm Dan Feliciano of OPEX90. If you want to learn more about strategic planning, Lean Six Sigma strategy assessments, or even you want me to help you do this for you, I have a bigger bot that will generate the strategy assessment for you, and I can take the existing business strategy, upload it, and it will marry the two together and say, hey, this is perhaps the direction you want to go in, right? Giving your financial capabilities, your customer base, your operational competencies, your technology competencies. Here is where you might benefit the most from, or here are some things to be on the lookout for. So again, Dan Feliciano, OPEX9.